Hey guys, my name is Sarah. I've been a healthcare traveler for 1 year, and here's what my first year looked like. For those of you who don't know, I am a radiology tech, not a nurse. I do mainly CT and a little bit of X-ray here and there, but it is very similar to travel nursing in the sense that I take 13-week contracts. Although each contract is 13 weeks and I could have bounced from state to state, I stayed in California for the entire year. In May of 2021, my ex and I packed our things and drove across the entire country from Tampa, Florida to San Francisco for our first assignments. We lived in San Francisco for 3 months, and boy was that a learning experience. I figured California in the summertime was going to be beautiful and sunny, but it was quite the opposite. I ended up having to wear a puffy jacket every day, although I packed shorts for the summertime. Almost every day was foggy, gloomy, super windy, and misty. Coming straight from Florida, the sunshine state, this really took a toll on my mental health. Not only was the weather a letdown, but I discovered that I am not a city girl. I had to take public transportation to work every day. I walked 30 minutes to the downtown station, and then I took a Muni to UCSF, which was about a 30-minute ride. So although I only lived 6 miles from work, my one-way commute was an hour. You see a lot of interesting things on public transportation. And don't get me wrong, it's very entertaining until you get harassed, and then it's not as fun. Driving a car in that city isn't very fun either. The roads are extremely steep. I'm sure most of you are aware. It could take you 30 minutes to just get a couple miles. And also, everything is parallel parking, and the parking is extremely hard to find. So if you just need to run to Walgreens and get some toilet paper, you might be circling the block for 30 minutes just to find a parking spot. San Francisco also has a very high crime rate. I'm sure most cities do, but it seems that the car break-ins there are very out of hand. Luckily, we parked my car in a parking garage at night, but even that can't be fully trusted, so never leave anything in your car in San Francisco. Ever. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't all bad. There are 1,000,001 things to do in San Francisco, so you'll never be bored. One of my favorite things to do when the weather was nice was go to Golden Gate Park. It was actually within walking distance from my work, so when I took my lunch, I got an hour break and I always chilled on Hippie Hill. Visiting the sea lions at Pier 39 was also one of my favorite activities. It's a very touristy area, but I just liked going and watching the sea lions. There's also some good coastal hikes right within the city. I did Land's End to Sutro Baths, and then there's a cool beach by the Presidio called Baker Beach that's dog friendly. Muir Woods, just north of San Francisco, also has some really good, beautiful hiking. One of my favorite takeaways from my time in San Francisco is that this is where I discovered my love of rock climbing. I always wanted an active hobby that didn't require sit-ups and push-ups. So rock climbing is perfect because you're getting a workout without even knowing it. You're using these muscles you never knew existed while solving a puzzle with your body and your mind. I'm pretty passionate about this if you can't tell, so I really hope my next contract is close to a climbing gym. San Francisco is also close to some really great national parks. I went to Lassen National Park just as the Dixie Fire was approaching it. That's the first time I got to experience being within such close proximity to a wildfire. Everything was orange and smoky, and these alerts kept going off on our phones about road closures. They ended up closing the park down just a couple weeks after we left because of the fire. We also went to Yosemite, which was gorgeous. My favorite hikes were the Mist Trail and Sentinel Dome. I am going to Yosemite again soon, so there will be more on that. In September 2021, I took a contract in a very small city just south of San Jose. My coworkers at UCSF told me I was going to the sticks. So I went from one extreme to the other, and I wasn't sure how I would feel about it. But once I got here, it's been so nice. I took the job because they were offering me an amazing schedule that gave me 5 days off every other week. So I got to go on so many amazing adventures throughout California and to other states, and I barely had to take any unpaid time off. I also got a super sweet housing setup. I got to live in a tiny house 5 minutes away from work that became available right around the time my contract started. So it's just like all the stars aligned and I was just meant to be here. And now I'm living here in my Airstream. This town is in a really cool location because I can easily hop over to the coast. I got to spend a lot of time in Santa Cruz, and I also went to Monterey a few times and Carmel. I've also been to Big Sur a couple times, which is only about an hour and a half away. There's also lots of local hiking with a wide variety of landscapes. Rue and I have hiked with cows, and we've also hiked in the Santa Cruz Mountains. But my favorite part about this contract, which I extended twice and stayed here as long as I possibly could, was all of the adventures I got to go on during my 5 days off. My first adventure was a solo car camping trip to Pinnacles National Park. I totally decked out my Jeep and slept in it for a few nights. After I tested out the SUV camper setup on my own, I took Rue with me to Big Sur and we stayed there for a few days. Our next adventure was up to the Tahoe area. I decided to go to Truckee, California first and do a hike there with Rue. I was really hoping that Rue would get to see some snow, and the universe more than delivered. Not only was there snow on the ground, but it started snowing while we were on our hike, so Rue got to see fresh, powdery snow for her first time ever seeing snow, period. I literally had tears of joy seeing my husky from Florida run around in the snow for the very first time. Unfortunately, the weather wasn't great in Tahoe, so I told myself we have to go back there, and we will be back there very soon. For my next adventure, I went to the big island of Hawaii and visited my dear friend who was on a travel assignment there. I figured San Francisco has some of the cheapest flights to get to Hawaii and the shortest in duration, so why not? The only downside is it literally downpoured the entire time I was there. There were road closures.
Oh my goodness, it's blowing our car.
We couldn't do anything except for go hike in the rain and check out all the waterfalls. We definitely made the most of a crappy situation, but after seeing the beach in the sunlight my very last morning there, I was like, oh yeah, I have to go back. Right around Christmas time, I took a 23andMe DNA test, which revealed some relations that I never knew existed. Whew, I got chills just saying that. So shortly after, I went to Connecticut, which is where I was born. I visited some family and I got to meet some newly discovered half-siblings. That's a very long story, but let's just say a lot has happened this year. I also got to see one of my dear friends who was on assignment at Dartmouth at the time. That's one of the perks to traveling, is having friends dispersed throughout the country. It's really cool when you know someone wherever you go. All right, people, here's where we come full circle. Right around this time, I got the phone call that my Airstream was ready for pickup in Eugene, Oregon. It was ready so much sooner than I expected, but I was not. So I spent all of January thoroughly preparing to pick up my Airstream. To be completely honest with you guys, my decision to buy an Airstream was completely on a whim. I was always interested in van life and trailers and RVs. And when I became newly single and I saw one on the road, I was like, that's what I want. And I'm free to do whatever I want. So I did it. But I totally stand by my decision. Now that I've gotten to the point where I'm at, I feel a lot better about it. When I spoke to the dealership in Eugene, Oregon, they had one that was already in the build process that someone backed out of. And they told me they needed an answer within a few days, and I went for it. I've heard some people have had to wait over a year for their Airstream, and I only waited 3 months. I had to hustle to make all of the purchases, get my tow vehicle ready, and do all the things before I picked it up. My next 5-day stretch off, I made the journey up to Oregon to go pick up my Airstream. I was terrified. No matter how prepared I tried to be, I felt thoroughly underprepared and was really doubting myself and questioning whether I could pull this off.
Everything's fine.
But I towed this baby back to California and I've been pulling it off ever since. I spent about 2 months on what I call the struggle bus, which was literally my Airstream's nickname for a little bit. I had no experience with RVs or campers whatsoever and was completely learning from scratch by myself. Adjusting to this lifestyle while working 10-hour days, trying to maintain a social life, and keeping up with the YouTube was a lot. Now that I've made all of the minor and major adjustments that I felt were necessary, I've finally gotten able to focus on the cosmetic upgrades that I've been wanting to do for so long. It's really starting to feel like a home in here, and it's perfect timing because I'm hustling to get everything done before I hit the road. I have really enjoyed my time in California, way more than I expected, obviously because I stayed here a whole year. I met so many amazing people and got to explore so many beautiful places. This first year of healthcare traveling has been an amazing journey, and I can't wait to see what my second year holds. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.